we see the bloodshed going on in this country, and it won't be overlooked. So we need to let the world know, and you need to know, that silence is the enemy and sound is the weapon.
Say his name, 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 won't you say his name? Say his name, 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 won't you say his name? Say his name, 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 won't you say his name? Say his name, 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 won't you say his name? Say his name, 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 won't you say?
Hi, I'm Reverend Jerome McCory, and I'm President and CEO of the National Congress on Faith and Social Justice. We're an Atlanta-based national organization dealing with police accountability, working to end mass incarceration, and supporting our HBCUs while also engaging in political involvement across this nation. And we're here with some very distinguished folks, and it's a great opportunity for me to be among these great giants, these wonderful people, and we're going to go around and ask them each to introduce themselves, starting with Sabrina, if you don't mind, and your organization.
Fine. I am Sabrina Jordan, and I have an organization which is Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality.
Brother Carlos.
My name is Carlos Buford. I have an organization, Urban Citizens for Social Justice, and we focus on the black vote, making sure that we get people out to vote and staying engaged.
All right.
I am Yolanda Simpson. I am the administrative consultant for Sabrina Jordan and Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality. I am also the administrator for Black Lives Matter Miami Valley.
All right. And we're glad that we're here and having this conversation. What we're not glad about is what brought us here and how we got here. And yet it's a subject that has to be dealt with. You know, our organization, as I said, deals with police accountability, we deal with mass incarceration, and oftentimes these are interrelated issues. But we want to have this discussion because there's an event coming up we'll talk about in just a little while, but we need to talk about it, to personalize it. Sister Sabrina, to personalize it. You went through it, and certainly you reached out to us, and I'm grateful that you did. But I think that people need to have a sense of what it feels like to become a part of a club that you don't volunteer for and that you wish you never had to belong to. Talk about where, not just where you are now, but how you got here and the circumstances.
Okay. My son, Jamarco McShann, he was killed October 20th, 2017 by the Moraine police. He was sitting in his car and he was asleep, and I can't say exactly what happened, but they shot him from the back 10 times through the back window. That what brought me to come up with the Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality, because this is not, it has become a norm here. It's normal anymore. Nobody's outraged or surprised. It shouldn't be like that. Police should not be able to just kill when they want to. It's like they think they have a license to kill. They need training. All these police departments here in Ohio, they need special training, because if a person flinch, run, make a move, you all of a sudden in fear of your life? No, that's where training comes in. So I want families to unite here in Ohio, because there's so many of us that have lost loved ones. And together we could be so powerful in demanding justice for all our families.
Absolutely.
We right now, what I want to get in place is the petition I have for Police Accountability, Community Protection Act. And they would be forced for these police departments to get training into their police officers. There's many families also hear, like I said, my son Jamarco McShann, he was killed last year in October. Another young man that was killed last year in October was Keyshawn Burney. He was killed in July of last year. He was in his car also.
Absolutely.
You know, Dante Martin, he was killed here, and he was killed in his car. You know, and it's just like,
Absolutely.
it's the day, it's news that day, but the day after it's nothing. You know, the police don't get charged. They get paid administrative leave.
Absolutely.
That's all you hear. That's the first thing. And then they bring them right on back.
Absolutely.
You know, some of them get transferred to another police department.
Absolutely.
You know, and then they'll go into another community and be brutal.
You know, and you bring up a very interesting point, because that absolutely happens. Officers that are under a cloud, if you will, are allowed to resign from their position and simply take a position with another police department. And a lot of people don't know that. And so in many of these cases, we're seeing it in Ohio, we're seeing it across the country. In many of these cases, this isn't the first time that they've killed somebody. And so it's a shame, and you're right. It becomes incumbent upon the people to get involved. And so we encourage families from the greater Dayton area and families all across the state of Ohio to reach out to you, to connect with you, because that's where the power is in coming together.
Exactly.
And so I, for one, am absolutely grateful that you reached out and made a decision to bring this particular group together. Let me ask Sister Yolanda, I know that Sister Sabrina alluded to this petition and alluded to some very much direct action that the people can take. Can you go a little further and talk about that?
The petition that Sabrina is actually talking about is a legislative policy that they started in Sacramento, California. And I know you guys are all familiar with Stephon Clark.
Yes.
Stephon Clark was in the backyard of his grandparents' home. He had a cell phone, and he was shot in the back, of course, like they do everybody. This petition is actually two parts. I'm sorry. The first part is SB 1421, I think it is. And I might be way wrong with the numbers. But the first part of it is that there has to be transparency in the police department.
Yes.
And what they're asking for, they're asking for those records of the police department to be made public. So anytime there is some complaint against police brutality, anytime there's a complaint against some kind of racial profiling, anytime there's a complaint like with the Tamir Rice guy, who was actually fired. Well, actually, he quit before he was fired from one police department and was hired on to the police department that he was at.
Correct.
You have to make those records public. The second part of it is to change the unnecessary or necessary force. And I think it's to necessary force. Right now, it's almost as if police officers have a right to say, I feel threatened for my life, and it was absolutely necessary for me to have to shoot this person in order to make sure that I am safe and to make sure that the people around him or the person is safe as well. So that petition is going on. What happened is we sent some letters to Mike DeWine with Ohio Families United Against Police Brutality. He sent back a letter, and he actually said that he had started a task force. And what he wanted to do in this particular task force is focus on implicit bias, focus on training. He wanted to make sure that police officers are getting training for people with mental illness and disabilities. Interestingly enough, John Kasich did a task force prior to that.
Yes, he
and
did.
they are all sort of focusing on this idea
Yeah.
that if police officers are trained, if police officers learn de-escalation tactics, then they're better able to handle dealing with defendants or potential, defendants on the ground. Unfortunately, however, like with the young man, the Antoine Rose guy, who was 17 years old, there was no de-escalation. There was not even a conversation. The young man was fleeing and he was shot in the back.
Absolutely.
They did absolutely no de-escalation with Jamarco McShann because he was asleep. So there wasn't time for them to actually have a conversation with this man before they decided to shoot him.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, with all of these kinds of task force, it's not mandatory for the police department to actually embrace and adopt those particular tactics. Luckily, the Dayton Police Department did. Not all of them. And they have not made public which ones they have not adopted.
Absolutely.
So it's imperative that we do the petition. It's apparently, actually, imperative that we make sure those policies and that legislation is actually changed. Unfortunately, however, the problem is that the racism is so systemic in law enforcement, and that's something that we need to focus on as well.
And that's something that I wanted to make sure that we brought up too, and talk about. What a shame, though, that you have to train somebody to not shoot you because of the color of your skin.
Right. Yeah.
To not kill you simply because you're fleeing a situation. It is never appropriate, and you're right, they're catchphrases. I feared for my life. And so that gives me the right to kill because I fear for my life. And very well, many of them may, but it's because what we're learning about these police departments is that they're made up of the good old boy network. And many of them have never interacted with black folk. There's a cultural change. There's some cultural differences that feed into this, and these guys don't know. And we'll get back to that in a moment. But one of the things that I absolutely believe in is, in order for me to call a policeman professional, and they like to say it's a profession, doctors, I know where they are. From the time they're 18 to the time they start practicing medicine. They're in school. They're in training. They're getting education. They're going to school probably with folks outside their own race. I know exactly where teachers are. From the time they're 18 till they get to a classroom of their own. They've been trained. They've kind of interned and shadowed other teachers. They've worked as aides. I know where they've been. What happens to the police at 18 when they can't be officers till they're 21? They go to the military. And the only training you get there is how to shoot straight. And then they come back and apply to be police officers because it's all they know from that culture of violence. But Carlos, Dr. King always taught us, and God, I always have to invoke Dr. King. Dr. King taught us that any movement had to have 3 prongs. It's got to be social, it's got to be economic, and it's got to be political. I sat here and I heard Sister Yolanda give some very valuable information, and she mentioned 2 elected officials, the Attorney General and the Governor of the state of Ohio, which says to me then elected officials play an important role.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, they do.
Talk to us about the role, the duty, the responsibility that we have to engage in our responsibility. It's more than a right. We have a responsibility.
Yes.
Talk to us about that and how important that is.
Yes, one thing about when it comes to voting for our elected officials, we want to make sure that we stay engaged no matter what, because those elected officials, for example, what Yolanda brought up about Mike DeWine, this is what she was referring to, which is an advisory group on law enforcement training. Mike DeWine was elected. He was put into office. So he is now our Attorney General. And unfortunately, when I read this right here, this guide, this training, it was all about training. It was all about training, training, training on top of training on top of training. It's a great thing, but we have to add something to that, which is what we want as a people. With that, the Fraternal Order of Police has always asked those elected officials, if we endorse you, will you make sure that we have a seat at the table? Well, when Mike DeWine made this up, the Fraternal Order of Police was there right with him.
Right.
Making sure it's all about training. When I read this whole thing, it had nothing to do with police accountability. That's what we need on top of training, is accountability and consequences when you shoot an unarmed citizen.
Absolutely.
And so that's someone who we vote in. Well, this coming November, Mike DeWine wants to be our governor.
Yes.
Alongside with John Husted, our Secretary of State right now, wants to be our governor. And I'm saying to us as a people, if we don't get involved and stop this from going on as far as them not making police accountable, that reflects us. That is our vote. We can stop anything we want to when it comes to accountability. If they're not giving us what we want, we better stop them.
Come on.
And we have a chance this November. But we cannot do anything until we bring our collective votes together. That's our responsibility.
That's right.
You know, and yes, there are some elected officials who they might not be 100%. But if they're like 70%, then go their route. And you might can add another 10% to that if you talk to them. But my thing is this, if we don't get involved, especially from a black community, we are really shooting ourselves in the foot when we want to try to get accountability for our sons and daughters being shot by police. And that's something that is detrimental. That to me, and Sabrina's my friend, long time friend. And when I found out her son, Jamarco, was shot and killed by the police, I went to her aid, and I was crying myself because that's my son. That's our son. And I can't imagine, but I said I'll do anything for her. But one thing I want to bring to her is put the voting aspect to your movement.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it more powerful.
Yes. Right.
Because then when you show up on the stage, they know that you got to deal with the police.
That's right.
But they also know that you're going to deal with the politicians too.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's important.
Absolutely.
Because people don't respond to people who don't vote.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so that's why I say, coming from a black community, we have to get involved now more than ever.
Absolutely.
Because if you know for a fact that what's in the White House now is racism. Let's just be honest and be real.
It's supremacy, no
And
doubt about it.
unfortunately, from Donald Trump all the way down all his appointees, they're discriminatory. A lot of them are racist. That's what we're dealing with.
That's exactly
But
what we're dealing with.
I'm not saying that's be anti-Trump. I'm saying being proactive for what we need, which is accountability.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they're not going to give it to us. So we got to put people in office who's going to give it to
We
us.
absolutely have to create it ourselves. And when you talk about that, and I appreciate you mentioning that, you're talking about when you elect the Attorney General of your state, the highest ranking law enforcement official in your state has to go through the voters. And we have got to remember that. We've got to bear that in mind. In your local community, where do your judges come from? They're elected officials. You know, I had a city commissioner, and I won't front on him. I won't bring his name out. A number of years ago, several years ago, in Dayton, and I went to him on the issue we were dealing with reentry at the time, and I said, "Man, why are you guys so silent?" And he very honestly looked me in the eye, and what he said was, "Reverend, create an atmosphere that makes us uncomfortable to be silent, and we'll respond. But we haven't done anything because nobody's created an atmosphere. And if you don't stir things up to give us a reason to tell our other constituents we're doing this because them folk mad and they making us do this, then we just sit and do as little as possible." He literally said those words to me. And so we must stir things up. Sabrina, with the organization, you know, and what a powerful name, Ohio Families Unite against police brutality and bringing these families, these like families together. What's the goal? What's the mission? Where are we going? And how do we plan to get there?
Well, first of all, I want to say, you hear all the time, we want justice. And I'm just going to put it out there. We'll never get justice because there's no justice unless you bring our family back. So, you know, just because a person wins a lawsuit, win some money, that's no justice. That is not justice. You know, when are police gonna go to jail for murder?
That's right. There you go.
Because that's what it is. It's murder.
Absolutely.
On my son's death certificate, it said homicide.
Yes, that's what they say on each one of them.
Homicide.
Yes.
And if anybody else that's in court for homicide, they have to go to jail. You know, they have to go to do the due process. You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
and it just enrages me so bad. So I'm just saying that we'll really never get justice. You know, right now we already lost ours. There's nothing we can do about that. They're gone. What people don't understand is help us help your family.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We out here making noise so you don't have to go through what we went through.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
I mean, this feeling, it's something it'll never go away.
I'm sure.
You know, it is, you can either crawl up under a rock and just wait to die type of feeling.
Wow.
But this keeps me going, knowing that I'm, out there trying to save others.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what I do in my son Jamarco McShane's name. You know, it just further, because I know it's going to keep happening. You know, it's going to keep happening. I marched downtown when John Crawford III was killed. I marched down in there, and never was I thinking, I'm gonna end up doing this for my son. You know, so people just don't understand. This can happen to anybody. It's not a black thing anymore. It's not just a black thing. It is a white thing, a black thing, brown thing. They killing whoever they want to kill.
It can absolutely happen to anybody. And a couple of points I think are so crucial and so very, very important. You know, Bro Carlos mentioned a few moments ago the FOP and how protective they are of their members, if you will. Let me tell you, the police department has the best union of any group of workers that I know of. Only with them are you able literally to take a life, to murder in front of witnesses. And you get a few days off with pay. And then you'll be able to come on back to work. That's a union, and that union the FOP, that culture absolutely has to change. The death certificates on all of our young people, they say homicide. IA should not be investigating, Internal Affairs should not be investigating homicide. If there's a homicide in the community, there's a homicide detail. Let the homicide folk come out and investigate so we can hold them responsible for doing their job, not IA. Let them come into our community and let them investigate what these police officers are doing. I think it's high past time that culture changes as well. So when we look then at how are we able to institute change, what kind of pressure, how do we fire up the forces that be? Is it the petitions? Is it the activism? And we need to probably clarify there's a difference between activism and organizing.
Oh, yes.
Both are essential, but there's a difference. You know, organizing is having a set plan with an end goal in mind.
That's right.
Now, I'll be honest with you, the end goal of the National Congress is to stand in front of the UN and to say crimes are being committed against humanity by the government of this country against its own people, and we want the UN to make intercession. Ain't no use in keep going to Washington, D.C. Not under this climate.
Okay, that's right. That's good.
What activism or organizing, Sister Yolanda, do we need to put together to become most effective? Because one of the things I know about you is you're a great strategist, and you really are. You have one of the greatest minds as an organizer of any person I think I've probably met, no matter what part of the country I've been in. What do we do? What do we suggest the people do that are listening right now?
I think it's both. I think the truth of the matter is that we need activists to stimulate our community to become organizers.
Come on.
And then unfortunately what happens is that we become activists in name only. And we really risk never getting our goals accomplished because nobody ever structures an organization so that we can actually get them done. If we want to vote, then we need to make sure every organization is aware who the candidates are.
Absolutely.
If we vote and we get the candidates in, we have to make sure that we are on them constantly to say, this is what you said when you came to speak to our community. When we organize, we have to understand how law enforcement works. We have to understand what the structure of law enforcement is. If we don't understand how the Fraternal Order of Police works, if we don't understand how Mike DeWine as Attorney General works, if we don't understand how special prosecutors work, then we're never going to change the systemic racism in law enforcement. If we don't understand how voting works, if we don't understand the Electoral College, we don't understand how voting works, we don't understand how the judges work, we don't understand how Sheriff Fisher continues to get elected, if we don't understand that, then we can't actually, our activism is in vain.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely, to me, it's
Absolutely.
imperative
I agree.
that as activists, we activate, stimulate, and we call on our community to organize. Organize means you sit your butt down and you come up with a strategy that says, how are we going to actually effectively make sure our candidates are not coming and give us lip service?
Absolutely.
That happens
Absolutely.
all of the time. So it has to
Absolutely.
be both, in my opinion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
yeah.
no.
And that was just bringing me to a point also, you know, about all the organizations working together to organize, you know, what have you.
Yes.
First of all, we got to get them to come together. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. It's so many. There are a lot of black organizations here in Dayton.
Got a ton of them.
It's so many,
Yes.
and if we all came together, there goes so many more numbers to
the
be
power.
power. That it's just power.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you know, I think a lot of it, like, I really don't have too much support from most of these black organizations because of that.
I was going to ask that.
Because of those little 501c3s.
Yeah, got to protect
They
the
cannot speak.
501c3.
They cannot
That's
speak
right.
out.
That's
You
right.
know, I've been told, "Oh, Sabrina, I support you, but I just can't be out
Yeah.
there with you."
Yeah.
That's not support.
That's not
You can
support.
keep that.
That's not
You know,
support.
I need you right there with me. You know, and then that's that part, and then the other part is just, you know, I like I said, I'll put it out there. It's about people want to be. They want to shine.
Yeah.
They want
Yeah.
to be that
Yeah.
one, you know,
Yeah.
to be about them. You know,
Yeah.
we got to get over this.
We do.
We are
do.
divided. We got all these organizations going on. You know,
Just little fragments.
it's just, we're divided.
Yeah, we are.
But I was going to say one more thing. I was going to say what's absolutely imperative. In the civil rights movement, the church was the backbone of everything
Don't
we
get me
did.
started
taking
on
my
the church.
question.
And
You're
I
taking
don't,
my-
I'm
that's
not
right.
asking you to come and make me a Christian because I already am.
Exactly.
Right.
What I'm asking you to do is provide for Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality some kind of resource so that when another unarmed person is killed, and it will happen, there's money. There's money for that organization to put into Ohio Families Unite
Yeah.
Against Brutality. So
Yeah.
people don't have to do a
Yeah.
GoFundMe for a funeral.
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous thing
It
I've
really
ever
is,
heard.
and it's the very thing. You're absolutely right. As a clergyman, if you will, our organization, in fact, is dedicated to organizing houses of faith. I don't care whether it's the temple, the mosque, the church,
Don't
the
matter.
synagogue. We've all fumbled the ball because we're more concerned about, quote, getting folk born again than we are about meeting needs. Dr. King said that if the church does not get back to, and he told us that even way back then, understanding that we were never meant to be a tool of the state, but a critic and a guide of the state. And that if the church, his direct quote was, so then if the church does not reclaim its prophetic zeal,
Right,
we will become nothing more than a social club
right.
with no spiritual or moral authority. And somebody tell me that we're not there right now.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is every church ought to have voter registration. You can dedicate 4 or 5 Wednesday nights to voter education
There you
because
go.
education has to be
That's
a
good.
part of voter registration.
What Yolanda
But
was
Carlos,
saying.
we've got to educate folk because folk don't know. And that's exactly what you're talking about. The church, let me just get this out. I honestly believe with all of my heart that if the church would reclaim the other side of its responsibility, because it's a dual responsibility. Oh yeah, we're concerned about saving folk. But what we do now is we don't even get folks saved, we just judge folk. And then we neglect totally that part that says we have to be responsible for taking care of the needs of folk. No one should be hungry in our communities. When a mother out here loses a loved one that way, in any way, she should never have to worry about where she's going to bury her young one from. How am I going to get the funds, which is what you're talking about. None of us should have to stand alone, but we are so concerned about building mega churches
Oh, yes.
that we have nullified our existence in the community, and we're wondering why folks don't come. And so I know our organization at the national level is dedicated to bringing those kinds of folk to the table. What can the church do to involve itself?
Let me just say this. You made a good point. On Wednesday nights, they can have voter education.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? That's a great, good point.
Absolutely.
I would love that. And I would recommend that to all churches. But to piggyback on what Yolanda and Sabrina was saying, churches, just like all these organizations, are up under, they have subjected themselves up under that 501(c)(3).
Yes, yes.
And they have to be neutral, which I call it a killer to black communities.
It is.
Because they can't speak for or against any candidate. That, I mean, prior to where we are now, churches were speaking, saying, no, you can't, don't vote for that person or vote for this person. Because they've subjected themselves up under
That's
that
exactly right.
501(c),
Yeah.
they cannot speak for or against a candidate.
And
to
yet,
me, that's
and yet let me say, there's a way around that. And,
Yes.
and I learned that as a younger preacher, because I'm still young. But I learned that as a younger pastor doing my first assignment at 26 years old. I pastored one of the largest churches in Atlanta. And my first meeting among clergy had Daddy King, not ML Jr. Daddy King, Jasper Williams. I mean, the good old fellas from the South that everybody knew. And I will never forget the question, the last question on the table of that meeting was, who are we going to support for mayor of Atlanta? And I remember Daddy King in that long, drawn, deep voice of his said, didn't we tell somebody they could be the next mayor? And the response was, yeah, I believe it was Campbell during that time. He said, somebody said, yeah, we told Campbell he could be the next mayor. He said, then what's the question? We'll make him the next mayor. Well, that particular Sunday, Daddy King was having an evening worship, and I decided to go to Ebenezer. Let me tell you what Daddy King did. He said, listen, Tuesday election day, and if I don't see all of y'all somewhere at the poll, don't y'all come in here and ask me for nothing. He said, now, I ain't even going to tell you who to vote for. Just because I'm voting for Campbell don't mean I'm telling you nothing. And what he taught me that day was there's a way around it, but it was Michelle Alexander, author of The New Jim Crow. Some years later, I brought to Dayton, in fact. And Michelle said to me, is your organization a 501(c)(3)? I said, it is. She said, why? And I had to think about that thing. She said, you can't endorse candidates. You can't really speak to the issues the way you want to, because all they're going to do is come out at you and mess you up. And that's why the National Congress is not a 501(c)(3).
Okay, but here's the thing. The Catholics are the hugest, denomination.
Absolutely.
They wrote a letter and protested against the Muslim ban. So here's the thing that's funny. The interesting thing about legislation and policy and law is that the people can eventually, we the people, can start to dictate, okay, yeah, you're saying that, but no, I'm not going to follow that. Because the truth of the matter is that when Obama was running for president, I don't think there was a black preacher in the country that didn't, whisper his name up on the pulpit. There's a way to get around that.
And that's what I'm saying.
The problem is that the church is hiding behind that. Because the truth of the matter is that if I support Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality, I'm starting to make some kind of conscious thought about the law enforcement community. That may get me in trouble eventually. The bottom line is that we have to wake up every clergyman in Dayton, in Beaver Creek, wherever, and say, I'm not asking you for permission. I'm not asking for your judgment. I'm not even asking for your prayers. What I'm asking you is that if you are going to be the moral authority over my community, then you need to invest your time, energy, and effort in my community. And if not, then you need to step off the pulpit. That absolutely has to happen. My opinion, it has to happen.
Sabrina, when you talk about leadership and you talk about, I'm one of those weird kind of dudes. I quit worrying about who like me, who dislike me, because I figured out all it's doing is confusing me. I just need to be about my daddy's business, and I began to focus on those things. And so I do say, and I take my shots and arrows. Facebook, unfortunately, has been used by so many of our people as a weapon. And I've got so many folks shooting a shot, throwing a rock and hiding their hand, if you will, on social media. And I take it because if that's all you have time to do.
Right. What
has it been like since you founded the organization? from a personal standpoint, and how have you stood and withstood even the attack of those that would the haters? Let's call them for what they are.
It was, I'm telling you, it's hard. It is hard. It's hard when you don't have much needed support, especially from your own people.
It's tough.
You know, I'm about to put it out there. This organization has more white supporters than black supporters, okay?
Yeah.
Which blows my mind still. It was middle October, cold. We out there, it's snowing, and you know, I mean, we just shaking because it's so cold. And we out there doing a rally for my son Jamarco. And I look up.
I was there.
I know you. Yes, you were. And I look up to look out in the crowd of my people, you know, and I'm looking out, and it was just more white folks. You know, it was so many white people that I knew that was, you know, from organizations and this, that, and the other. It was only maybe, I could count maybe 3 black organizations that came out one time or something. You know, it hurts because I've been, you know, in the community for years. I've worked with so many communities, so-called leaders and their organizations doing things and, you know, just supporting.
Yeah, yes you have. And I'm a witness.
And to actually, it really hurt. It hurted so bad at first. I was like, I can't believe this. You know why? Yeah, I mean, my son was killed. Where these folks at? You know?
Absolutely.
I looked up. I just knew they were going to be there. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay because at the end of the day, I'm still going to do me.
Absolutely.
I'm still going to do, you know, I'm going to go out and I'm going to say their names. When I first began the organization, I said, this is not going to be just about Jamarco. I'm out here speaking for all of them. You know, whenever I'm out and about, I say the Jamarco, John Crawford, Keyshawn Burney, Dante Martin, Jameer Rice.
You have to call the roll.
I'm calling them out.
Call the roll.
You know,
that's right.
There's nothing selfish about it. We were talking about the churches. You know, again, another disappointment. I am very disappointed in the church. The churches. I'm very disappointed in the pastors. So disappointed. I've spoken with a couple, and they don't want to make a move.
They really don't.
They want to think about it. You know, what's there to think about? You're a pastor. All of y'all should come together. We all should come together and figure this out. This is our people in our community dying. They're being killed. You know, why? What are you doing? You out here rallying about everything else.
And what's so remarkable is doing this at the national level, meaning, and all that means is that you're just in a bunch of places. But it's amazing how in New York, when we did Rise Up October, we had about 15,000 folks there. 6 or 7 of the pastors from Dayton all wanted to be on stage when they saw me. Should have seen them at the front of the stage, but they won't do anything at home. And that's such a terrible, terrible shame. Let's give people the opportunity to redeem themselves.
That's good.
You have an event coming up.
Yes.
Let's call out folk and let them know, here's how you can redeem yourself and become a member of the organization, as well as support the organization at this public event, so won't nobody be judging you because we'll all be there for the same purpose. When is that event, and tell us about it?
It is a block party, Raleigh Block Party. We're gonna, it's July the 14th.
July 14th.
At Dayton View Park. And
that's on Broadway Street.
Broadway and Superior.
Yes.
And we want people to come out. We're gonna have hot dogs and hamburgers for everybody. We're gonna have music. We're gonna have speakers there. To speak about police brutality. I have some of my son's friends, young men, that you'd be surprised, these young folks want to do something.
Oh, absolutely.
They want to do something, you know. So they made up, they made up different raps that they're doing on police accountability and urban violence. Because I'm also, just because you don't see it on there, but I am also about urban violence.
Absolutely.
You know, as you know,
I was going to say, you lost a son, and I had the opportunity. the responsibility to eulogize two of your sons.
Yes.
Tell us about that situation.
My son Jamal McShann, he was killed from urban violence out there in the streets.
Right.
Black on black crime, you know. He was 22. He was my middle son. Jamarco was my youngest son. He was killed when he was 23. October's not a good month for me because Jamal was killed October the 15th. Jamarco was killed October the 20th. My son, I'm also, I am a trifecta here, you know, because my oldest son, they sentenced to 60 years in prison last year in October, okay? So I'm dealing with prison reform, reentry, you know, urban violence, police brutality, okay? You know, and people say, well, I don't know how you can do it. I don't know. I don't have a choice.
Absolutely.
I don't have a choice, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm not getting ready to go get in the bed, get up under the cover, and just let them just die and just in vain and nothing. No, I'm going to keep my mouth moving.
I'm glad you bring out both the urban violence as well as the police violence.
Yes.
But don't let anybody ever tell you, and I'm saying this now to groups that deal with police accountability and misconduct. Don't let ever anybody, and one of the things we went through in New York, I had a reporter from the Daily News there in New York say to me, you got all these folks out here dealing with what the police are doing when y'all doing it to each other in your own community. What are your thoughts on that? And I simply responded, spur of the moment. I said, my living room may be a little dirty. Probably could stand to run the vacuum and do some dusting and cleaning up. What it does not do, though, is give you the right to dump your trash in my front yard. Don't you ever confuse those two issues. We've got homework to do, and that's one thing. But don't you ever confuse with what y'all are doing. And I want to make sure these listeners know they can get involved. I don't want to lose that. July the 14th?
Yes, July the 14th, Dayton View Park. We're
What
gonna have from 1 to 5. We're gonna
1 to 5.
We're gonna, and oh God, I welcome the youth.
Yes.
Because they are our right now. Everybody say the future. No, they are
they right now.
They are right
They
now.
prove that.
And they are. They gun ho. They trying. They don't want to go out and act the fool. They want to know what to do. You know, and they're going to be rapping, like I said, and what have you. It's going to be about celebrating life.
Yes.
You know, from police brutality and urban violence.
Absolutely.
Okay. I wanted to say something else too, that what our goals is too for the Ohio Family Unites is we want to be able to have a fund, you know, an account where we can say, hey, we can't pay for the whole funeral, but this gonna get it started.
That's exactly
you
what
know,
should happen.
But the thing about this organization, nobody wants to really deal with that. Nobody's donating. Nobody's, you know, volunteering. Nobody's just reaching out. They're scared of the whole thing. You know, anything about police. You know,
That's sad.
we need help. You know, it like I said, ours is gone.
Yeah.
We're trying to help you save yours.
And that's a good segue to do the wrap up. I want to encourage every pastor, every imam responsible for the temple, every rabbi, whoever you are. We have, especially in the black church, the building fund. The building fund about 60 years old. We ain't never even put new windows in the church. But we make an appeal every time we get together. Don't y'all forget the building fund. We need to take some of that building fund and use it to build our community,
Yes.
to support our community,
Yes.
and organizations just like Ohio Unite, Families Unite against police brutality. And you can't do it for organizations like, because it ain't but one that is absolutely dedicated to this issue and date.
That's good.
I want to take this moment to just thank everybody who's going to hear this, because I believe they're coming out July 14th. I'm accepting that, and I'm believing that between 1 and 5, they're going to find themselves at that Dayton View Park between 1 and 5 on Broadway Street on Saturday, July the 14th. So closing comments, Sabrina, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I do. I wanted to say something else too, as far as the church and pastors. You know, if the clergy is listening right now, my thing is, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a priest, none of that, okay? But I'm going out doing stuff that pastors,
Yes.
leaders of the church are supposed to be already out there doing. So I've already set the stage. Why we can't do it together?
Absolutely.
Why we can't get together on this and build
Let's
on
get
this?
together.
Okay,
Let's
that's
get
all I
together.
want. Help, just that word, unite.
Yes.
That's a powerful word.
I like that.
Unite.
I like that.
That's it. So,
Amen.
all right.
Thank you. Brother Carlos.
Well,
That's
I'm
our
just like
voter
to say-
registration education man, everybody. I
That's
want y'all
right.
to.
Yeah, definitely vote. That is so important. Churches definitely, I believe, should get involved more, so that they could at least, because the same people that's in them pews are those who are out here in these streets fighting
Yes.
for your
Yes.
son and
Yes.
our sons and daughters. So hopefully they can come out and participate, you know what I'm saying? And we do encourage that, but even more so, having voter registrations on Wednesday nights every now and then.
Absolutely.
I'm encouraging that.
Got to do
Please,
it. Got to do it.
pastors, some people have had, I went to different churches and I've done voter registrations. I can't do all of them. So all you got to do is have some voter registration forms, pen, fill them out, take them down to the Board of Elections. Within 10 days, go ahead and have voter education at your churches on Wednesday nights. That'd be a great
Absolutely.
idea. So
Absolutely.
definitely make sure your members and everybody in the community always have voter registrations, because come time November, if a person is not on the voter rolls or they think they're not, they need to find out right now. And if you're not sure if you're on the system or not, you can call down at your Dayton Montgomery County Board of Elections and ask them if you are in the system. And then if you're not, they can register you pretty much on the phone.
Will we be
So-
able to register July the 14th from 1 to 5 at the park there on Broadway?
I'm pretty
Put
sure
that out
Sabrina's
again.
going to have
Yes.
someone
We wanna
out
make
there
sure.
for voter
Oh,
registration.
definitely.
Sabrina always have voter
Yes,
registrations.
any
at her
event,
events.
anything we
All
do,
events.
We want to make sure.
That's hand in hand.
Thank you.
That's hand in hand.
Sister Yolanda.
I just want to say, for Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality, there is a Facebook page and the website, which is
OFUApolicebrutality.org. And then our email is OFUApolicebrutality@gmail.com.
OFUA.
And then go on and like our Facebook group page,
Great.
Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality.
Great.
now, is the petition still on? Is it on the website yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
But
we will make that
I-
available.
Oh,
for
definitely.
Yeah, we're
If
trying to
you-
get that on
if-
there.
if
But
you
we can
wanna
actually
come.
message you as well and get,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
or if you email me, I will.
Okay.
I will attach the petition.
Give your
to
email
you.
one more time. Give that
It is
email.
OFUApolicebrutality@gmail.com.
Got it.
Okay, and I just want to say one last thing. Most of you know who John Crawford III is. He was
Yes.
killed on August the 5th at Walmart in Beaver Creek. I've organized a memorial for him, and
Absolutely.
both Sabrina and Reverend McCoy have both are going to be speaking. We're going to be marching from the police department to the Walmart. We will have a couple of speakers, and then hopefully we'll have a release of butterflies for the family.
Give
So
us the starting time.
August 5th, 3 o'clock at the Beaver Creek Police Department. You can go on the Black Lives Matter Miami Valley. Is it Black Lives Matter Miami Valley Facebook page?
So many.
And
All right.
yeah, you can go on the Facebook page, and there's a flyer on that page. And I
Great.
think that Sabrina also shared it on the Facebook
Yes.
page of the Ohio Families United
Yes.
Against Police
Great.
Brutality.
All right.
And-
But one more thing I want to say,
Okay.
it is absolutely imperative that you support this woman.
Absolutely.
She is the most dynamic and amazing
She really
woman
is.
I have
She's
ever. And I
absolutely
say that
dynamic.
because she has graciously allowed me to be a part of this organization, and I am forcing her to let me help her. I have to force her to this. She
I know what you
is
mean.
an amazing woman, and it is imperative that we all show up
That's right.
for Sabrina Jordan. You also have an incredible organization, and
Thank
neither
you.
one of you
Thank
guys
you.
mentioned your website or your Facebook page, and they're very wonderful. So I would just mention that if I were you.
Okay, and also let me just say this: if you want to get voter information, when we're going to vote or when voting is coming around, or elections, go to my Facebook page, Urban Citizens for Social Justice on Facebook, and you will see all the things that I'm doing in the community, and also you might see some ballots on there. So definitely go on my Facebook page. That's my only social media that I have at this time.
Well, we have the website, in fact, and thank you so much for pointing that out. You can certainly reach the National Congress on Faith and Social Justice. It's congressonfaith.com, and that's where you'll find our website. But we also have a Facebook page, simply National Congress on Faith and Social Justice. We love to get you involved. We love to connect you with your organization from wherever you live. And our chosen organization in this area absolutely is this organization. And allow me real quick to echo what you just said about Sabrina. As I walk around this community, I go to the grocery store, anywhere else I want to go, someone always stops me and raises questions about the Adam Project, which had become such a dynamic organization. Had it not been for Sabrina running that office, and Sabrina came and took over. I met Sabrina when her first son lost his life, and Sabrina immediately stepped in. She took over, she did her thing, and I will always be grateful. And that's why when she called, when her second son was killed by police, let me tell you something, I did not hesitate. I wasn't around, but I came around. It was a matter of a couple of hours, and I popped my head in, and I'm going to stay throughout this fight.
Right, I appreciate you.
Amen.
I appreciate you all. I did have one more. I forgot about an event we're also having on the 21st, the Saturday after. Okay, and it's called the second call to action, where everybody's going to meet on Catalpa at Body of Christ Deliverance and come and collect petitions. Go out for a few hours, come back. But while you're out, I'm going to have flyers with pictures with all the victims in Ohio. You know, I want you to hang them, put them on bulletin boards or what have you. So yeah, I definitely need people's help, organizations, I need your help, churches, I need your help. Help us get this petition out there and get them signed, you know?
Absolutely. So August the 4th, July the 14th, we're going to be at the Park on Broadway.
Right. And then July the 21st,
Body of Christ on Catalpa, and help me with the second
Hillcrest.
street. Hillcrest.
Yes.
Hillcrest.
Yes.
And then on August the 5th, we're going to be at the police department in Beaver Creek. We're going to walk down to the Walmart. From there, starting at 1 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Starting at 3 o'clock. I was going to be 2 hours early. Starting at 3 o'clock. Thank you. God bless you all. Wake up, y'all, and stay woke. God bless.